Last week I was able to create a function to automatically generate flashcards based off of notes that users uploaded. And this week I need to finish that function by making it so users can save created flashcards to a database. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because whenever a user creates a flashcard set, it requires processing power and money to do so. This means that it also takes a certain amount of time to generate them. So in order to reduce all of that, it just makes it easier to give users the ability to save and reload flashcards that they've already created. I think somewhere along the way when setting up my database, I messed up the configuration. So I'm gonna have to delete the current one and remake a completely new database with hopefully the correct configuration settings. So I was able to get that fixed, and I found another issue. So the problem is whenever I remade this database with hopefully the correct configurations, it takes a little bit of time for all of the changes to propagate through the Google Cloud systems behind the scenes. So what that means is I'm gonna have to wait for some amount of time before I'll actually see the changes go through and know if I did everything correctly. While I wait, I'm gonna get some lunch. So after eating, I ran a few more tests until I was finally able to get another error. This time though, it was good. Before, the error that I was getting was saying something along the lines of bad request, implying that it just wasn't going through to the database at all, or at least not correctly. This time the error that I was getting was permission denied, that accurately implied that my permission handling hadn't been set up yet, which it hadn't. So for the time being, I could assume that everything worked well enough for me to leave it for the night and come back tomorrow to focus solely on getting permissions done. Okay. Today I need to take a look at fixing the error that I was getting yesterday, which means I'm going to need to spend a good bit of time working on setting up permissions. I could just set some basic ones, but I want to try and do it so that I'm using a good rule set so I don't have to worry about it too much later. After writing some basic rules, I ran a couple tests and finally had successfully written flashcards to the database. But this success raised a new question. So depending on how I organize my data here, its efficiency and scalability with future features can get pretty limited. So in order to prevent any future limitations or issues, I need a plan. So my basic idea is to follow a couple requirements I know I'll have. Firstly, I need to distinguish which flashcards belong to which users. So this means I'll start with separation by user. Second, I may in the future use this database to store other related data to each user, so I'll separate everything again with a general flashcards entry. Next, I want to separate each set by the user's collections. This is a feature I haven't implemented yet, so for now we'll just call it general. And finally, I'll have some kind of ID system for each one of the flashcard sets so that they can be uniquely and easily identifiable. From there, I'll have each card separated by an index that'll contain the question and the answer, as well as some other information. There's a few changes I can make to this in the future. Specifically, I'm not sure exactly yet whether I want it to be in order from flashcards then collection, since I may want to separate other things based off of collection in the future, but for now this will work at least for testing. After finishing that up, I still have a few more things to do before my work week is over. Specifically, I need to work a bit more on the infrastructure for supporting multiple developers. As for now, it's still mostly just me working on the website, but pretty soon we're going to have more developers beginning to add some contributions to the project. Not only does this mean that we'll need a place where code is easily accessible, but we'll also need to make it so that people can actually understand what's going on in the code. After working for a while to comment my code and delete any unused imports and functions, I then uploaded everything to GitHub. My plan for these branches is to have a main production branch and a development branch so that we can have a place for the production code and then something to pull from for development. From the development branch, we'll also have feature branches for each collection of features or generally related functions that people are working on. And I'm sure there's probably a better way to do this, but for now it works well enough.